I'm sort of in the background. Sometimes I'm even arguing with them in the background, like, I don't want to say that, or this, but it still comes out. But I'm very present, and like I said, now we're just sort of all a team, and it's barely even noticeable. But definitely in the earlier years, it was unusual. And there was one time where she recounted, I think that was in Glastonbury too, she recounted the death of Jesus and her feelings for it, and my physical body experienced that whole grief right there with her.
How do you cope with all the changes that you must go through when you're channeling not only Isis but also Mary, and you know, how do you deal with the emotional distraught of the people that you're channeling for? You're getting it from both sides.
The people that are receiving the information,
yes.
or the people that I'm channeling?
Yes.
So, well, I think that's where for the people that are receiving information, they're very touched, of course, and we're able to move on a deep level. I think that's where my foundation of clinical social work as a therapist really kind of was perfect for me, because I know how to help people with their emotions. I know how to navigate and move them forward in a helpful way. And then I have all the training of energy healing as well. So I have to say, when I chose my career in high school, I really didn't know where I was going. I certainly didn't know I'd end up here, but I really took all the right steps to have everything I need to support people.
Did you choose your career, or was your career chosen for you?
Well, I randomly chose social work when I was in high school. I ended up loving being a therapist, but I would say that this journey, and I did have an interest and a passion in spirituality my whole life. I didn't think, I'll be a channeler at any point, because I didn't even know what that was when I was younger. But I know what you're asking. I don't think I could have chosen any other path, really, or would I have?
What happens, or what would happen, if both Magdalene and Isis decided to be with you at the same time? Has that happened?
Well, like we're so vibrationally in tune with each other now that sometimes when I'm speaking, even if I'm not saying I'm about to channel, the people who know me or have followed enough, you can actually hear all three of us weaving in sometimes when I'm perhaps speaking but not saying, okay, now I'm going to channel. That's how natural it's become. But if you're not really in tune, you may not even notice the shift. But there is a little shift in my voice and the words that I use with each of them.
How does being a channel affect your personal life? Like, if you're Sheila Applegate, the young lady, not the channel, do they try to come in, or are you able to block the presence so that you can have some downtime?
I'm very, because I train people to do this as well, and to be able to communicate with spirit. And actually, these are the two that are in the book, but I actually can channel almost anyone, because I'm just open, and that technique becomes very easy for me. So I've actually channeled a lot of other beings, but I have very, strict boundaries or mastery over it. And so this is my space. I'm the human. I get to choose. So there isn't any of that overtaking of me at all. And I'm only working with people or with beings at a very high frequency. So I don't get bombarded like maybe others would feel like they do. And I also I've always very much advocated, when I was doing readings, you open, you close, and they're only allowed to connect with me when I call them in.
How do you find them? Now, I'm not talking about Isis or Magdalene here, but let's say John Q. Public comes before you and says, Sheila Applegate, I'd like you to channel my departed grandmother for me. How do you find his grandmother in the great beyond?
There is no time and space over there, so it's the very connection of their love for that being that draws it forward. So just by their presence and their desire to connect with that being would appear in most cases. I mean, when we're talking about people who have crossed over, so when we're talking about Magdalene and Isis and beings at that level, they're ascended masters, so they're accessible in any moment. When we're talking about a loved one who's crossed over, they may be at a whole other spectrum. Just like we as humans are evolving, we're evolving on the other side. So depending on where they are energetically, it would impact my ability to access them and how I would, whether I would just bring in the third person, bring the message in, or if it actually kind of converts to where they're able to speak in the first person. Has to do with their energy. But the connection is from the love.
Many people that I've had on the show are proponents of reincarnation. My question to you is, if reincarnation is in fact real, what would happen if Mary Magdalene or Isis were to be reincarnated? Would you lose their spirit mediumship?
No, because the level because we're all so much more than our physical essence, and like I just said, beyond our physical experience, time and space do not exist. So the aspects that are Magdalene as I know her and Isis as I know her remain in that field and accessible, even if their being is reincarnated on Earth. Now, in this situation, neither of them are speaking about being reincarnated somewhere else, but you can still we can actually access our own ascended self because it's already there. We're just trying to remember it. So the frequency, the vibration that I go to, that aspect remains in the field even if someone is reincarnated.
Now, that would be interesting, connecting with yourself on the other side. Have you done that?
Yes.
What did...
Well, I take people on a journey. In my training with people, my mentorship, I help them, because what we're trying to do is live from that space here. This is all interesting and beautiful, but that's, even when we think about it this way, it's still adding to our idea of separation, when really the plan is to embody that here. So what I do is take people on a journey for them to see and remember their ascended self and start to bring that into their presence here so they can live from that space.
Sheila, why do we fear death so much?
See, that's such an interesting question, because isn't that the core of all? Even when we revert back to what you said about all the things you listed early in the show that seem so traumatic, they're all about death, right? Yeah. Well, we're all going to die. So we're programmed to be afraid of death, and it's the core thing that no religion can understand, because they're saying try to stay alive, but when you get to heaven it's going to be wonderful. It's the core of our conflict in the human existence. And my understanding of it is, because we created this dense realm as an exploratory experience and we became physical, we needed something to ground us and keep us in this experience long enough to get to this point where we could start exploring these big concepts and learning to bring our higher selves into this physical zone. So we were given a primitive instinct to survive, which is my definition of the ego. It hooks us to earth and it tells us you want to stay alive, because because dying ended the physical experience, and if we didn't have something pulling us here, almost like our own personal gravity, that we wouldn't stay here. We would just float back into the ethers and be in that blissful energy. So that's programmed in us. So now people are saying we have to overcome the ego. That's really the ego's job, is to keep us alive. So we really just want to transform the ego and let it come along with us so that we can bring those energies here to Earth. But our goal is actually to bring those energies to Earth, and that's why we have this drive to live. But in reality, it's really no big deal whether we live or die, because it's just continuous, and we're always going to be in that beautiful energy.
You and I have to take a commercial break. It's our final break, Sheila. Please stand by, dear. Exonation, Sheila Applegate is our special guest this hour. She's the author of Enchanted One, The Portal to Love. Her website is www.sheilaapplegate.com. That's www.sheilaapplegate.com. And we'll be back on the other side of this short commercial break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
Violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Sheila Applegate is my special guest this hour, Exonation, www.sheilaapplegate.com. She's the author of Enchanted One, The Portal to Love. First of all, Sheila, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been a great pleasure, and I look forward to the next time that you join us here, because as I told you off air, what you're doing is important, because these are very important times, and thank you for all you do.
Well, thank you, and thank you for spreading the message and reaching so many people with the message.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I believe if you're not part of the problem, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And who wants to be part of the problem? You know, come on, we're not ostriches, right? Listen, I understand that you have a fractal illumination gathering coming up in October. What is fractal illumination?
This is a new healing technique that, well, I would even say, I'm not even sure it's a healing technique. It's a new energy technique that came kind of spontaneously into me in the early year in March, and I've been guided on how to work with this energy. And what it does is it ignites the DNA, and it actually changes the body on a cellular level to make it more receptive to the changing energy that we are talking about. So as we're moving through these challenging times, we're also bringing in a tremendous amount more energy that is available to us. And you've heard people talk about we only use a small portion of our brain, and we only, we're all, in the DNA, there's a whole bunch of the strands that aren't activated. And so this is actually bringing the body along and helping it to incorporate the tremendous energy that's coming into our world right now.
Fascinating times, no doubt. What is your message for the worldwide listening audience of the X Zone tonight, Sheila?
My message would be to believe and to know that you're important enough to make a difference, and what you place your energy on is what you're creating. So if we want to create a world of peace and joy, it's important that we shift our attention away from the destruction and the fear that is constantly bombarding us in the media and around the conversations, and place our attention diligently and really committed to placing our attention on peace and joy, because we create what we think and what we feel.
Throughout the hour, I've been promoting your website at www.SheilaApplegate.com. But where can people actually get copies